Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
The Rock and Review is thrilled to have back on Grammy and Emmy Award-winning entertainer, a man of many talents, and with a brand new album, Harry Connick Jr. Harry, thanks for coming on the show.
It's great to be with you again.
You know, it was so much more fun when we actually got to have you live here in Nashville, down at Acme Feed and See downtown. But I love this new album, Alone with My Faith, that you just came out with.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. I agree. It was more fun for me, too, to be with you there. I'm really happy with this album. It was something that was new for me in that I recorded the whole thing by myself. There were no other musicians. There were no recording engineers. It was just me in the studio writing and singing about how I was feeling during the pandemic. So I sang some spirituals that everybody knows, like Amazing Grace and How Great Thou Art.
Right.
And I wrote a bunch of songs, and I'm just happy that it seems to be resonating with some people.
Well, I got to bring this up too, Harry. Listening to the album, it's like you cover so many diverse musical styles, but I think my favorite is your take on old time religion, to where I really feel like you got that New Orleans kind of style. I feel like it's like one of the New Orleans funerals going down the street, and I'm a part of it.
Well, that's exactly what I was hoping for. So if your viewers have ever been to Mardi Gras, they know that when a parade comes down the street, in the middle of the floats, there's a lot of marching bands, brass bands, and that's what I was trying to convey. And then sometimes in a Mardi Gras parade, there's a malfunction mechanically with one of the floats, so the float will have to stop for a while. So my idea was to have this brass band coming down the street playing Old Time Religion, and then a float comes down the street with a band on it playing Old Time Religion. They stop, and then the parade continues. So if you listen with headphones, you can kind of hear the whole parade marching through. And it was, it took a while to record because, I have to start with the kick drum, and then I go back and I add the snare drum, and then I go back and add the tubas and trumpets. And it takes a while, but boy, it sure is fun to do.
Well, I got to bring this up, too, to where it's impressive to me. Last time you were here in Nashville, you had your younger daughter with you, but one of your daughters helped you with the album cover and the video for Amazing Grace. Talk about this.
So Jill and I have 3 daughters, Georgia, Kate, and Charlotte, and all 3 of them are highly artistic in their own right. And Georgia, the oldest, is 24. She is a photographer and a director, filmmaker. So she took the album cover, which is probably my favorite album cover I've ever done, to be honest. And then it came time to do the music videos for Amazing Grace and Alone with My Faith, the title track. And I said, look, you've worked your whole life to be ready for this opportunity. Here it is. Are you ready? She said, I'm on it. So she, picked the locations, did the location scouting, talked to the people she needed to talk to make sure we could shoot on these bridges and these state parks. And she shot it, edited it, directed it. And, I'm like, wow, you're really good.
That's when you're proud of your daughter on something like that. And I'll tell you what, watching the video with Alone with My Faith, it's like it's like epic. It's like a small movie. And obviously, it's such an emotional song. And with you in the stark, out in the snow and with the stream and everything flowing through the snow and ice, it's just it's a powerful video.
Thank you. I can take no credit. All I did was stand where she told me to stand. It's exactly like the relationship I have with my wife. It's just part 2. Just do what they tell you to do and everything's fine. So Georgia basically said, stand over there, look this way, walk that way. And I followed her lead. And, she's a very impressive young woman.
Well, and all these songs on this new album, Harry, really seem like they're from your heart. And I know you've expressed in other interviews to where you don't want this to just reach out and touch people of faith, but everyone. And you grew up in a multi-faith household also.
I did. So my mom was raised in New York as a Jewish girl. She met my dad, who was raised in the South as a Catholic boy. And then they had me and my sister, and we had a lot of different influences. Now, I happen to be Catholic. I'm a Christian. But, I would really hope that this album touches people who have any sort of faith. And, listen, I think about some of my friends, dear friends, who don't believe in God or faith at all. And I would hope that they can live through this experience in their own way and find some comfort and joy in it too. So there are Christian songs on the album, but this was not intended to be a Christian gospel album. This was intended to be an album that celebrates faith through my perspective of faith, that hopefully would be inclusive of everyone.
Well, and I watched the video that you did on your YouTube channel, kind of introducing this before the album came out, and it was so heartfelt. And, it really struck me on it, Harry, to where it's like, we've all lived through this together. We've all kind of shared the same wacky experience, and with, unfortunately, the loss of family members and friends through this past year. But I think also, music unites us and bonds us. And if we can find, some solace, and obviously you felt it was cathartic creating the music.
I really did. And you said it perfectly. We all went through the same thing. And what was crazy about this is, there were a lot of silver linings. I mean, a lot of us got to do things like spend time with our kids that we wouldn't have had otherwise. There were a lot of good things that came out of the pandemic, but we all know how tragic it was. We all had, people getting sick and dying and lots of different things. So, but we all went through the same thing. And this was the first time I've ever been able to write music in real time that allowed me to get through an experience that everybody else was trying to get through too. I mean, I've never had that. So I felt like, this album is for all of us. And it really did. I don't mean this to sound like I'm bragging, but it got me through. And if that can be the case for somebody else, and I feel like I was successful.
Well, and to say, you've been successful in a lot of things, Harry, and I got to bring this up to where you were on Broadway back in 2019, doing some great stuff, also with your album at that time, which, what a great, songbook to work from,
songbook,
yeah, oh my gosh. And so I got to kind of ask you, as things start to open up again within the next year or so, you've got this new album, you've got that. Are you going to kind of merge them in your upcoming tours?
Whatever. Listen, I cannot wait to perform, but listen, I think we're all ready to get back to some semblance of normalcy. It'll probably be a combination. I'll go back with my Cole Porter show, which is a big Broadway type show, and hopefully take that all over the world. And then I would love to perform some of this music, and so there's a lot of stuff I'd like to do.
Yeah, because it seems like to me, and I love those songs in that catalog and that album that you came out with, Harry, but it seems like it got cut short with the COVID, but obviously, fortunately, you found a new muse in what you created.
Yeah, well, we were supposed to be on a world tour, so I directed and wrote this Broadway show called True Love, a celebration of Cole Porter, and that we were supposed to be on tour with that. Well, obviously, more important things happened, and that got pushed to the side, which is totally fine. But I am going to bring that back out, and there's just a lot of music I got to get out.
And talking with so many artists and bands on the show too, Harry, it's I think none of us, I think when it opens up again, I've said this to other friends, it's like, I'm going to go to every concert and every show I possibly can. And if somebody goes, hey, you want to go see this band? Yes, I do. Let's go now.
Right. I'm telling you, I mean, we're all craving that, just being together again. And I don't know, man, I think we all learned something about ourselves through this trying time. And again, it's amazing because it's not some personal experience that I can try to empathize. We all went through the same thing. So we're all ready to get back and be with each other again and celebrate together. And I think we're going to look at it slightly differently now.
I think vastly different. And I think that's what's so great about your music too, Harry. Selling over 28 million albums in your career and the incredible, composing and arranging everything you've done and your band that you travel with, just amazing. But it's like you've never rested on your laurels and just gone, okay, I'm going to stick with what has got me the awards. I mean, you always push the envelope musically. And it seems like, you especially did that with this album where it's like, because I mean, stylistically, it's all over the place, which I love.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you do. I think some people might think this is all over the place. I don't know if I like that, but you have to do in life what makes you happy. There is a little bit of a compromise when you do things that are dependent on the reaction of other people. I mean, I'm an artist. I guess I could stay home and just play by myself. But when I choose to ask people to buy my records, I need to consider them too. And I think what people want more than anything else is sincerity. And I have to do things that make me artistically fulfilled. And when people hear them for the first time, they may say, like I did an album years ago called Star Turtle, and people are like, what is he thinking? And then over time, people are like, oh, I kind of get it now. And so it may be a little bit shocking at first, but I think it's okay to be a little bit uncomfortable as a musician and a listener as we try to, to adapt to new things.
With this album being as massive as it is, with Alone With My Faith, and so many different layers musically that you hear within it, do you think you're going to put it into vinyl? Yeah,
in fact, I think I know they're putting it on vinyl. I think
Good.
I heard that somebody talking about that somewhere. This would sound cool on vinyl, man. There's a lot of, because there's no fake instruments on this. Like there are no what they call soft synths, where it's like GarageBand if you need a trumpet or a synthesizer. These are all real trumpets, analog synthesizers, and organs from all the way back to the 30s. So there's nuances there that you can't get with soft synth. So man, it would sound so cool on vinyl.
Well, that's where I was when I was listening to some of the Hammond B3 and some of the Wurlitzer sounds and everything that you had in there, just hearing some of the vintage instruments. And I was listening, through Spotify, and I thought, man, if I had this on a full system on vinyl, what would this sound like? Well,
the last song on the record, Panis Angelicus, there's an instrument called a Hammond Novachord, which was like the first synthesizer from like the mid 30s. It was at the World's Fair. And that sound, it's out of tune and it's weird, idiosyncratic, and you're not going to get that. That would sound sick on vinyl.
I'm excited. Well, I'll plan on seeing a copy. I want to make sure too, for our viewers, Harry, where should they go for, to get everything, all the upcoming things that you have, hopefully with your shows, obviously with the new album, Alone With My Faith, where should they go?
Well, for the album, you can go any place you normally, get your music. You can buy a CD if you want, I think vinyl at some point, but any of the streaming platforms, Pandora, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, all of those venues. And in terms of me, just check my social media, Harry Connick Jr. on Instagram or Twitter or, all the other ones, just to, that always shows what I'm doing and where I'm going to be.
And your YouTube channel for the great videos. But I got to thank you. Harry Connick Jr., thank you so much for coming on the Rock Review, and what an incredible album with Alone With My Faith. Well, we look forward to seeing you here in Nashville.
Thanks, and let's do it in person next time.
We'll do it.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.